Hello and welcome. On behalf of Radford University's College of Graduate Studies and Research, I am Penny Brooks. I am on the staff here at the Graduate College, and we're presenting today a virtual information session regarding our criminal justice graduate programs. I'm going to be introducing the other speakers you'll be hearing from in just a moment, but first I want to point out the features that we have here at our disposal with our virtual setup. If our participants have any questions at any time, please feel free, and I think pointing down to that corner, you'll see the chat. Ask us any questions you feel like, and we will just jump right into them. If at any time any of our presenters have something they want to emphasize or want something to remember, please feel free. They will type it down in our notes section. So we are very interactive and hope that you feel free to communicate with us as much as possible over the next 45 minutes. Thank you also to everybody who's watching this as a recorded piece on our YouTube channel. Feel free to watch our other videos as well. First off, I'm going to introduce the program coordinator for the criminal justice program. That is Dr. Laurie Ellis. And if Dr. Ellis wouldn't mind just giving us a little bit of information about your background and the work that you do here at Radford.
Okay, thank you very much, Penny. As Penny mentioned, my name is Dr. Laurie Ellis. I'm the coordinator for the graduate program. I'm also a faculty member in the Department of Criminal Justice. I have been the coordinator off and on for probably about 6-7 years, as well as teaching in the department. In my role as the coordinator, I work with students, help with students answer any questions that you may have about the program, help you with your classes, or anything that you have questions about with regard to the program.
Wonderful. We also have another faculty member here with us today, Dr. Isaac Van Patten. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself a little bit about your background and what you do here at Radford.
Sure, be happy to. I am the coordinator of the post-baccalaureate certificate in crime analysis and sort of on our internal committee on the undergraduate minor in crime analysis. I've been with the university for 21 years. Prior to that, I had a forensic psychology practice for about 25-30 years. And my primary teaching interest is in data science and analysis of all kinds.
Wonderful. We also have a graduate assistant, someone who's actually in the program right now, and that is Caitlin. And Caitlin, if you wouldn't mind sharing with us where you got your bachelor's degree and how long now you've been at Radford.
I received my bachelor's degree in criminal justice at Southeast Missouri State University in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Yes, SEMO. And I have been here, this is my last semester here, so this is the end of my second year.
Well, if you don't mind me jumping in real quick with Caitlin just a little bit, what brought you to Radford, and what are some interesting projects and research that you've been able to work on lately?
I actually have a strange personal connection to Radford. The department chair, Dr. Owen, actually graduated from the same university. So we had a colleague that we knew that she was the one that first told me about Radford. But I was already on the hunt for graduate school. I knew I wanted something that I was familiar with. I didn't want necessarily a huge program. And I guess recently I have been working on my thesis. I'm working on a thesis. I'm researching the impact of recreational marijuana legalization on crime in Denver after it's been introduced into the community. And I'm also a teaching assistant, so I teach 2 sections of the CRJU 235 Police and Society class, which keeps me pretty busy. So.
Wow, that does sound like you're a very busy person. Let's talk with Dr. Ellis really quick and just get some groundwork laid. Why would somebody be interested in a graduate program regarding criminal justice, and what kind of situations would that be a really positive benefit for somebody?
Well, I think there are a couple of reasons. I mean, first and foremost, getting a graduate degree or a master's degree deepens your knowledge about whatever topic you're interested in. So in this particular case, criminal justice, the nature of a graduate education, sort of what you do in a graduate program differs than what you do in an undergraduate program. It's much more intensive. The level of sort of learning and understanding is much deeper. So just in terms of the additional education, I think it's pretty valuable. Beyond that, in terms of sort of getting a job in the field, it may well be beneficial depending upon what you want to do. Most of our students go into policing, but they vary. Some go into crime analysis, which Dr. Van Patten will talk about here shortly. Probation and parole. So there are a number of different positions that are available. Not all of these positions require somebody to have a master's degree to get the job. You can get a number of these positions without a master's degree, but it's certainly beneficial. And also, depending upon where you want to work, for instance, Northern Virginia, if you're going to go into Northern Virginia and get a job with the police department, having a master's degree might set you apart from other applicants. So in a number of positions, it may help you get the job. Even if it doesn't help you get the job, though, it's certainly beneficial in the field of criminal justice when it comes to getting promotions. Many of the positions, many of the fields in criminal justice really like students and want students that have a master's degree. So beyond the additional knowledge, the ability to get a job and the benefit in that, as well as the benefit with promotion later in one's career.
Does the criminal justice program at Radford have a specific area of research and emphasis that they focus on in case anybody is interested in that particular area would want to work with you all?
Our faculty is very diverse. We have faculty members that have very different backgrounds. My PhD is in criminology. Dr. Van Patten's PhD is in psychology. We have faculty members that have PhDs in political science. So we have such a diverse faculty that if a student has an interest in any particular area, it's likely they can find a faculty member to work with. Now, in terms of sort of focusing within the department on one particular area, we do see that with the focus on crime analysis. And sort of the crime analysis certificate is sort of the one concentration per se that we really have within the department.
Well, while we're talking about that certificate, let's go to Dr. Van Patten and tell us a little bit about that certificate program. Who would be interested in possibly earning this certificate?
Well, potentially anybody who wants a job as a crime analyst. We started the development of the program over 10 years ago, and one of the things that we did is a sort of a needs assessment survey of active law enforcement agencies about crime analysis and crime analyst positions, what they were looking for in the way of education and so forth. And so ultimately the certificate was built based on the feedback that we got from the law enforcement agencies. Crime analysis is kind of an emerging profession in law enforcement. Started on the West Coast, started real small in a couple of smaller agencies. And one of the things that kind of happened during that era was they figured out that law enforcement agencies amass a huge amount of data, but almost nobody looks at it. Nobody takes into consideration what kind of information may be in there. And a couple of forward-looking police commanders said, well, let's take a look. Let's see what we can do. And they started developing what has emerged as a data-driven model of policing. And when they realized that they could leverage that data, get actionable intelligence out of it, the profession was born, if you will. And it has spread to the East Coast. It first spread to large agencies, and then now it's kind of filtered down to smaller agencies. For example, Blacksburg has an analyst. She's a graduate of our program. I work, besides teaching at the university, I work as a criminologist for the Roanoke City Police Department, and we've got program graduates that are working there as analysts. The curriculum is designed to arm you with entry-level skills so that you could show up on the job and be ready to be functional on your first day. Now, you're going to have to learn some of the peculiarities of the agency you work for and the software that's specific to that agency, but at least at a conceptual level, you won't walk in scratching your head. You walk in kind of understanding basically what's going to be expected of you.
What sorts of undergraduate degrees would really lend themselves to working with that program? We heard that, in the regular criminal justice graduate program, you have people coming from a variety of fields like psychology or criminal justice or social work or whatever. What fields would be best for this crime analysis?
Probably it has more to do with the individual circumstances. If an individual is naturally curious, they want to find things out, they want to solve mysteries, and that's been a part of their education regardless of their major, then we can teach them the crime analysis methods and techniques. Certainly we've pulled people from geospatial sciences, from math and statistics, from psychology, from sociology, from political science, and certainly criminal justice. So we pulled students from a broad spectrum.
And I think Caitlin has taken some of the courses that relate to crime analysis. Can you tell us some of the things about the classes that you found fascinating or work that you did?
I will agree with what Dr. Van Patten is saying. I actually this past summer interned with Denver Police Department in their data analysis unit, and from day one I could sit down and produce whatever they needed. I do think that this program absolutely gives you knowledge of the tools that you need to be able to provide a quality product for whatever agency or police department is asking. A lot of the classes, I think that just the caliber of professor that's on the faculty, when I can go across the country and I can go to Denver Police Department and the director of the unit can say, yeah, I've seen products from Rachel Santos, I've seen products from Dr. Van Patten, but based through the other organizations that they are a part of. I think that speaks a lot to the caliber and quality of professor that they have in the department here at Radford.
That's an amazing opportunity. How long were you there?
I was there for a few months, but I went back in January to help volunteer with them for a few more weeks, and I have plans to move out there in May as well.
So that's where you're going to follow up with your career then?
Yes.
That's fantastic. And I know that you're finishing up your thesis, I guess.
Yes, in the process of trying to figure out what's going on with that as well.
The thesis is always fun to work on. I had to do one myself. But that gets back to Dr. Ellis, that there is an MA and an MS in criminal justice. One of them requires a thesis, but one of them doesn't. So if you could explain the differences for us.
Sure. Both are two-year programs, so if you're going through the program full-time, you can complete either the MA or the MS within 2 years. The MS is what most of our students do. The MS is 36 credit hours worth of coursework, so 12 classes. And the final semester that you're in the program, you would take a comprehensive exam. So it's a take-home exam that you take for a week. The MA option is a 30-hour program with 6 hours of thesis credit. So 10 courses plus 2 semesters of working credit. Students can elect whichever program they want. Most of our students do the MS. They do the MS degree, they finish up, they go work in the field. We occasionally have students who are interested in getting a PhD. So those students will tend to do the MA option. So they'll do the coursework, write a thesis, and then go on to a PhD program. Occasionally we have some students who do the MA option just because they're interested in doing research and they're interested in doing sort of a piece of research on their own. So that happens as well. And students can choose whichever one they like. And to sort of add to that, if students are interested in getting the crime analysis certificate, they can also add the crime analysis certificate to the master's program, and it doesn't add any additional time. It's worked out so that the elective courses required for crime analysis would count towards the elective courses required for the master's degree. And 2 of the courses are 2 of the required courses for the master's degree.
So you could feasibly earn your graduate program and get the certificate at the same time.
Yes.
That's fascinating.
That's what Caitlin's doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. I am very impressed. Well, let me keep talking with Dr. Ellis a little bit about this then. is it a good idea to go straight into the program from your bachelor's degree, or is it a better idea to work out in the field and then come back having gotten a little bit of experience working out in, quote unquote, the real world for a while?
I think it depends upon the student. I think it depends upon the individual. There are a number of students, and if you look at our program, we have the on-campus face-to-face program. The vast majority of students in that program are students who have gone straight through. They just finished their undergraduate degree and are coming into the master's program, and they were really interested in getting their master's degree right off the bat. We also have a online program. It's the exact same program. It's just the classes are taught online. It's taught as a part-time program that you can still finish in 2 years. The online students tend to be professionals, working professionals, individuals who have been in the field for a couple years up to sort of more than a couple, who are interested in getting their master's degree. So I think it really depends upon the student and what's going to work best for you.
Have either you, Dr. Ellis, or Dr. Van Patten taught an online class? And if you could talk a little bit about how those classes work in case someone is interested but they're not sure how they would go about earning an online degree.
Sure. I've taught one. Dr. Van Patten has as well. I'm sure I'll talk about that here in a minute. I teach the CRJU 600 course, which is the Survey of Criminal Justice course. It's one of the first courses that our students take. I teach it both online and face-to-face. It's the exact same sort of readings, the same work. It's just in the online format, requires sort of chat rooms and discussions online. We do occasionally sort of meet face-to-face in the virtual world, if you will. Students write papers. So that's sort of what I expect in that environment.
And how about you, Dr. Van Patten?
Yeah, I've actually been teaching online for quite a while. I use the technology we're using today. The courses I've predominantly taught online are the more technical courses in the crime analysis certificate. Because they're skill-focused courses, I use a watch, follow, do technique of teaching, where I will demonstrate something, go through it, have the students follow me through it, and then have them do it on their own. So I find I've tended to use live online instruction. The disadvantage of that for some people is you do have to be present in front of your computer when the class is going on. I've also taught asynchronous, which is no fixed meeting times, but typically have work that needs to be accomplished in each week. I've never done it as a self-paced course. I personally don't like that model, but when I teach an asynchronous course, I set up assignments, prepare materials, load them all up into our learning management system for the students to access. They can go there, read independently, take the tests, the quizzes, do the homework that's assigned, and that sort of thing. And certainly some students prefer one way over the other. For working professionals, being tied to a computer is a little bit harder, especially for example, our law enforcement personnel. I've got in one of my classes I'm teaching right now online, I've got a homicide detective from Metro DC. He's on midnight shift right now, which means he actually is coming into work early to take the class. When class ends, and he goes to work. Had an intelligence analyst from the FBI last semester, and her hours were crazy. She was in the cybercrimes division, and so when they needed her, they needed her. One of the things I do is just like you're doing today. I record all the sessions so that if a student misses a session, they can go back and watch the recording. The feedback I've gotten from the students is they're generally pleased with it. Caitlin can probably speak to that because she's taken 2 or 3 online courses from me at this point in time.
Caitlin, do you want to comment from the student's perspective as to how the online courses work?
Yeah, I know specific to our crime mapping class, we're on campus together. We're usually several of us that are in the on-campus program. We'll get into a computer lab together, pull up VP up on the front television, and then all of us are on our own specific computers. It still has the flexibility of scheduling, depending on, where you want to be whenever the class is happening. But with some of the online programs, we do have additional computer software that we are using. And I do think that, specific to Adobe Connect, it really can help when how our classes are paced. I think Dr. Van Patten does a really good job of kind of listening to where everybody's at, and if anybody needs help, helping them out to make sure that we're all on the same page.
One thing that Dr. Van Patten mentioned leads me to think that it must be fascinating to be in classes where everyone has such interesting careers, skill sets, and backgrounds. You really get to share information from people who have a wealth of information about what you're working on. And just the ability to network with these other students, that's an amazing opportunity.
It really is. I know personally I find that very stimulating. I like people with some life experience under their belt out there, and so I've sure enjoyed that part.
Now, is the online program a part-time program or a full-time program?
It's a part-time program, but it can still be finished in 2 years. So essentially, we go from a model with the face-to-face of 3 courses per semester, fall and spring, with the summers off. The online program goes 2 courses in the fall, 2 spring, 2 summer, 2 fall, 2 spring, 2 summer. And if students want to take 1 class per semester, they can do that as well. So you can either finish in 2 years or extend it if you'd like.
So it sounds very flexible to me. We have someone wants to speak up, I think. They have a comment to make. It sounds like it's a very flexible program and that you're willing to work with people so that they have the education and the degree that they need, even if they can only dedicate 1 class at a time to doing it.
Oh, yes. I mean, I think we understand that students have different things going on in their lives. Some students are working full-time, some have families. If they're interested in doing class part-time, then and they want their degree, we're certainly willing to sit down and work with them and figure out a way to help them get it.
Now, our participant has just raised her hand, and so Hillary, if you have a question, feel free to type it down in the chat box. We'd love to answer your questions. And I imagine a lot of the participants, they want us to jump right into, I'm sure we've sold them on the program completely by now. If someone is interested in applying, what sorts of materials and information are they going to need to provide to you?
Sure. The requirements are an undergraduate GPA of 2.9. Students are required to have 2 letters of recommendation. Students must upload a sample of their writing, and what we're really looking for is a research paper there that illustrates that the student knows how to use peer-reviewed references, knows how to craft sort of a well-written paper that evaluates the evidence. The topic can be anything the student wants. We're just looking for their best paper, and oftentimes they've written a number of papers at the undergraduate level and then with work. We also have a requirement of just a statement of interest, why students are interested in entering the program, and the application and the $50 fee. Our program doesn't require GREs, unlike many other programs out there.
I know a lot of folks get hung up on the test scores, and so probably that is a relief to a lot of folks. And here's our question from Hillary. Caitlin, this is targeted to you. Would you personally recommend the online classes or the hands-on classes? So put on your
For me personally, because I'm here on campus, I have a mix of both. And I am partial to the online classes, but I do think that that's more content-based. A lot of my online classes have been the crime analysis classes, but you still get the personal interaction with that as well. So I think it really depends on your preference as a student, and it also maybe depends on the professor as well. I think that it varies. If you are a working professional, the online classes, the flexibility that they present are really can be utilized well by working professionals in the field. But because I am a full-time student and I get a mix of both, I don't know how well I can actually speak on the preference.
Well, let me ask then, I think one thing that probably would be of interest to folks who might be considering the online program, they might be wondering how responsive the professors are, like if I have a problem, if I'm not understanding something, or if I suddenly can't attend an online class because my work has popped up. Is it easy for me to get in touch with my professors even though it's all online, or are they very well accessible?
Yes, almost. I would say from a professor perspective now, since I am teaching classes, I can say that we could be accessible to a point, or to a fault, actually. I know that Dr. Van Patten provides us his Skype name, his personal cell phone. There's been several times, I think last spring when I was in crime mapping, we were working on an assignment, and we ran into a problem, and one of my colleagues, Alexa, just whipped out her phone and called Dr. Van Patten with a question. But I've seen that. I think that that's generalizable across the entire faculty. I think that the professors here really invest in their students. They care about us and they want us to succeed as long as we're putting the effort in as well. So.
Now here's a question. Let's say I'm coming from a different discipline like psychology or communication, but I've decided that I really am interested in getting the criminal justice degree or the certificate. Will I have to take extra classes in criminal justice to be able to catch up to basically that bachelor's degree level before I would really be able to jump into the graduate program, or is it worked out somehow differently?
You may. It depends. We look at, in sort of our evaluation of the applicants, we look at the classes that people have at the undergraduate level. And one of the things that we're interested in is that they've got some background in research methods, because we do require that at the graduate level. They can pick up a research methods course, or oftentimes have a research methods course in various majors and degrees. So they will oftentimes have that. And oftentimes we'll see students have, one or two sort of basic criminal justice courses. So it's really sort of an applicant by applicant sort of assessment. And when we do require students to take courses at the undergraduate level, it's only typically one or two. So it's not as if they'd be taking a number of courses.
You wouldn't have to take a year's worth and then jump in or anything. Okay,
No.
That's really good to know.
With the crime analysis certificate, I pretty much have found that we can spool them up from zero. The first two classes in that program are research methods, which if you studied any social science at all, you certainly had some exposure to that. The other one is quantitative methods, which is actually a statistics course. And again, that's not discipline specific. Quantitative analysis is quantitative analysis. And then there is nothing in our curriculum until we introduce the minor at the undergraduate level that would necessarily prepare you for either the crime analysis or the crime mapping courses. So we teach those with the assumption that the student's coming in naive. Probably the only one that you would benefit from some criminological background is the a course in environmental criminology.
Okay, good to know as well. When we were talking about materials before, I did not ask if there is a deadline or if there's a certain point at which students should apply. Dr. Ellis, what say you?
Yes, we have a deadline of March 1st. And the deadline for March 1st is priority deadline for graduate assistantships, because we do have funding opportunities for students in the program. So if you're interested in an assistant, it's important to get everything in there by March 1st. We will take students after that date as well. But once again, sort of from an assistantship perspective, we really prefer that students do that by March 1st. Sometimes assistantships can still be open after that point, but it's much less likely. And we will take students until sort of the class is full.
Well, I'm glad we've gotten to this point, because I was getting ready for us to talk a little bit about the financial assistance side of things, and that is always a huge consideration when deciding whether or not to get a graduate degree. And our criminal justice program does have teaching fellowships as well as regular assistantships. Would either of our professors like to tell us what the difference is in them, and some of the things that you might want to do if you're interested in getting an assistantship?
Laurie?
Sure. Thanks, Isaac. We have 3 different assistantships that we offer students. We have the graduate assistantship. That is what most of our students Okay, the graduate assistantship is either a 10-hour per week position or a 20-hour per week position. Graduate assistantships or graduate assistants are assigned to work with faculty members. In terms of what they actually do, sort of dependent upon what the faculty member and the student sort of want them. Sometimes students will help with research, sometimes students will help with courses. It really is a function of what works best sort of for the faculty and the students that semester or that year. We also have every year a couple of GPA positions, and a graduate teaching assistant is a student who is in the first year of their master's program, and they take that year basically working with a faculty member and preparing to teach courses their second year. So Caitlin, her first year in the program last year, she was a GPA. She was assigned to work with a faculty member. The faculty member worked with her in terms of putting together a syllabus, identifying a book to use in class, talking to her about and getting her ready to teach the courses. And then the second year in the program, they transfer over into a GPF, and that's when a student has two 200-level courses, two sections of the course. So either two sections of policing, two sections of sports, or two sections of prep.
So Caitlin, you are a graduate teaching fellow right now.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the work that you do and how you balance everything all together.
So I teach Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 2 50-minute classes. I have my office hours. I have 2 office hours a week. And that's just really a time for my students to come into my office and have conversations with me, get extra help on anything they need. So I do that on top of with teaching in the actual classroom, but on top of that also is grading. So I think a lot of flexibility. The utility of the first year is really being able to take the time to figure out how you want to format your class in a way where you're not constantly grading all the time, but yet you're still putting enough work into the semester. I think that the program does a really good job on reflecting back on my colleagues in the program with me as well. I think that the committee does a really good job of pairing us up with mentors, and you have your mentor for the first year that really helps you think about, well, what are your goals that you want to accomplish, what are some things that you want to do in your class, but also how can we make sure that you are giving yourself enough time to do classes and stay on top of your own classwork on top or as well. So I think for me, balance is really just trying to figure out the best way that you work. For me, I'm a night owl. I stay up almost all night to work. I will miss the college lifestyle after I'm fully transitioned into adulthood for sure. But I think just knowing how you work best really will help with balance. Sometimes it is difficult. Absolutely it is difficult, but it's also difficult in the real world as well, I'm sure. So that's just something that you just prepare for.
How many hours a week do you spend in class, and then how many hours a week do you spend on your teaching fellowship work?
This semester I have an online class, so I don't know how relative. I'll do last semester. I think I spent about 6 hours in the classroom, but I was taking my thesis credit hours as well, so I only had 2 full-time classes with my thesis class, and then teaching on top of that was another 6 hours in a classroom.
So that's doable.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like
stuff that's outside the classroom. That's where a lot of that to-do lists are perfect. I love to-do lists.
But then you get paid too, and that really helps, I'm sure, as you get ready to go out into the real world, that you don't have to worry about so many school expenses.
Yes.
If a student is interested in getting an assistantship, do they need to communicate with you all in advance or just apply?
Just apply. We consider all the students who apply for the program for assistantship. And if a student is particularly interested in being a GPA or a GPF, please let me know that. But we do. We consider all the students for all the positions. And we look through their applications, see who we believe might be best suited for a GPA position and a GPF position based on some characteristics. But we will evaluate all the applicants. once again, if a student reaches out and says, I'm really interested in sales.
And I would mention also, since I work in the graduate college, that roughly half of the graduate students who are here at Radford University get some sort of assistantship, which is a very high proportion. So even if you do not receive one through the criminal justice program, there are other assistantships that are offered. For example, my graduate college office, we have 3 graduate assistants who work in our office, and they get paid for their hourly work. So there are other avenues of earning the money that you'll need for your program. Now, if you're an online student, the assistantship doesn't really apply, does it?
No, the assistantships are only eligible for students who are full-time students. So they'd have to be full-time, and once again, full-time is face-to-face.
Is there any kind of financial aid that might be available to students who are online students, apart from, I guess, just filling out your FAFSA and seeing what you can get, or?
Filling out the FAFSA. And in order to fill out the FAFSA, it's my understanding you have to have 6 credits. So you have to be taking 2 classes to be eligible for the FAFSA. And, other than that, it'd be any sort of scholarship that a student would be able to track down, but there aren't many that run through the department, per se. They're more so at the university.
Do you all know of any cases where people working out in the field have made arrangements with the people they work for who, if they get their graduate program, their agency or such would be able to help them pay for that?
Yeah, do you want to handle that, Isaac, or?
There are some, it varies widely agency by agency. Roanoke City, where I spend a lot of time these days, they do have a tuition assistance program. You have to apply for it each semester. You have to maintain a certain GPA. And it's not a substantial amount, but it's enough to help you cover your tuition or to buy your books or something like that. And those kinds of things. Some agencies will have a pay incentive when you finish your degree. You'll get a bump in pay. And this is kind of a hard, cruel reality. In public safety, we're working on other people's money. So there's not a lot of it to go around. I mean, we're 100% tax dollar supported. So we don't generate profits or anything like that. So it's real difficult for, especially in tough budgetary times, for agencies to provide a lot of financial support. But some of them do. A lot of the Northern Virginia agencies do have pay incentives as you finish both an undergraduate and then a graduate degree.
So I guess the basic takeaway from this is check with your agency and just do some homework, because the financial assistance could be really beneficial wherever you might be able to find it.
Yeah, and my recommendation to students is ask. The worst they can do is say no.
There you go, absolutely. Now, I want to check with Caitlin again, because you went to the Denver PD, and was it was that a internship, or what a different kind of hands-on opportunity that you did with them?
It was an internship through the police department. I did have to enroll in a course, so I just have an extra 3 credits that I'm graduating with, but that was just part of their program requirements. I just wanted to do something productive with my summer, so I was doing that and working on my thesis at the same time.
Do most students within the graduate program do some kind of hands-on interaction like an internship or some other work with an agency? Is this a common thing for the students?
I would say it's not an uncommon thing, but it probably doesn't reach the level of being a common thing. For the MS students, the curriculum is actually pretty tight between a limited number of electives and required courses, that it's difficult. Now, we don't offer a whole lot of graduate coursework in the summertime, and that's what Caitlin did. Was she took advantage of the summer. She had to sign up for the internship class, which is a 3-hour class, Caitlin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it gives you 3 credit hours, and it's a pass-fail internship program. But a lot of agencies will require that for liability reasons. That's kind of the difference between being an intern and being a volunteer. Volunteer typically doesn't have any liability coverage. They're kind of on their own out there, and agencies get a little bit gun shy about that. But I would say probably pretty consistently, maybe 1 in 4 graduate students will seek out an opportunity to get some hands-on experience.
That sounds actually really interesting, and I'm glad that you all are able to work with them in case they find an opportunity or an area of research and they want to achieve that they have that opportunity. We have 5 minutes left, and so I want to give all of you all an opportunity to give some final comments, and if you would welcome potential students contacting you, how they might be able to do that. So let's start with Dr. Ellis.
Just want to thank you very much for sort of our virtual information session. I'm happy to answer any questions that you would have about our program. You can contact me either through email, which is lelis@radford.edu, or through my phone, which is area code 540-831-6775. And once again, I think we've got a very good, very strong program. We're happy to work with students. We have a lot of opportunities for students. What you want to do. Thank you.
And if you wouldn't mind sharing your email down here too, like Dr. Van Patten and Caitlin have, that way folks can write that down, and if they want to reach you by email, that's possible. Dr. Van Patten, do you have any final comments for us today?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, for general program information, Dr. Ellis is much better. What we find is when students contact me for general information about the graduate program, I get it wrong. And then Dr. Ellis has to come in behind me and clean up. But when it comes to the certificate program, I'm certainly the point of contact there. I try to answer the emails immediately if I can. If I'm working, I'll stop what I'm doing and respond. And I'm more than happy to answer any of the questions. If you go on the department website, they're under programs, academic programs. There's a link to the crime analysis certificate, and there's a lot of very specific, very detailed information there that's available to students. Take a look at that, and if you have any questions after that, certainly feel free to drop me an email, and I'll get back with you.
Awesome. Well, I guess we're going to finish up our hour or 45 minutes with Caitlin. And Caitlin, if you had any final words or suggestions for folks who were thinking about getting into the graduate program, it's time to share them now.
For me, I think that it's up to the individual. My personal decision to go to graduate school had more along the lines of I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up, and within my first semester here, I found out that crime analysis is a thing, and I've developed a really big passion for it. I think that it really is a great way to further your own education, get a change in perspective, and also, build up that resume if you so desire. And I do think that Radford, the criminal justice department here at Radford, is a great opportunity between research projects with professors, independent studies or directed studies, your own personal thesis, the crime analysis certificate. There are a lot of opportunities here that students can use if they want.
Awesome. Well, I have to say, I already have my master's degree, but I'm almost convinced to try out the certificate program just because it sounds fascinating. So I urge anybody who is watching this info session, reach out to the folks that you've heard from today. They really love to hear from prospective students. Any range of questions, they'll be happy to answer. And if you have any questions about Radford in and of itself, or if you'd like to arrange a campus visit, which come visit Radford, absolutely. I've put my little grad inquire at radford.edu email down there. Reach out to me, Penny, and we'll be happy to set that up for you. Thank you so much to our presenters, and thank you to anybody who's listening to this, especially Hillary, our participant today. So happy to have you here, and as always, thank you for cooperating and participating with us here at Radford's Graduate College, and thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.